the big calls on all the big races. Welcome back to another edition of What a Shout, the Racing Post's flagship feature weekend show. Dave Orton, thrilled to be back in the seat, somewhere in the capital on a Thursday. That's right, brought to you by our sponsors Bet365, and it's a whopping weekend for those guys because they sponsor an outstanding card. Yes, not that many runners, but quality action on the flat. That's on Friday, so we're going to give you 3 big race previews from there, and then it's the celebration of the jump season. Yes, it's coming to an end, isn't it? But the Bet365 Gold Cup looks a sizzler with 18 runners going. Stick around for that, of course. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment and share. That's what it's all about if you're watching on YouTube. Anything on Twitter, hashtag What a Shout. Okay, now, before we go down the panel and introduce who is here for you and what's coming up, if you're not a member of the Racing Post yet, allow this to whet your appetite. There you go then, stay ahead of the field, which we'll be bidding to do with the tips. And Graeme Rodway, who graces us with his presence again on What a Shout. You don't see that often these days.
I think you do.
No, you're sort of like you're moonlighting all over the place at the moment.
Well, I'm a busy man, Dave.
You just don't like coming out of Great Dunmow, do you? That's the problem.
It's a lovely place, isn't it? You know, but it's been a great week, hasn't it? So far, we've been Punchestoning, and we've got some flatting, and then some jumping, and then some more flatting. And then more flatting and more flatting.
Yeah, because classics are coming up, aren't they? When do you switch hats, if you like?
I don't really, you know.
You keep them on. You like a bit of summer jumping?
Yeah, I like summer jumping. I love going to Stratford. Beautiful place.
I love that Hunter Chase meeting.
Yeah. That's that. And of course, we've still got the Swinton at Haydock.
Yeah, that's coming up very shortly.
Don't give up on your jumps yet.
All right, okay, fair enough. All right, yeah, we'll talk about Punchestown as well from our sponsors, Pat Cooney from Bet365. It's a massive weekend coming up with classics as well, but we must first look back. And of course, do you know what? A little nod to you and me, Pat, because at the start of every week we look at the running rules, nothing to do with G-Rod or Mission Control in the gallery whatsoever. We look at who we should have on as a guest, and that is 3 years in a row that we have got the trainer of the winner of the Scottish National. Congratulations, Pat.
Yeah, it's a pretty good record, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I suppose when you're picking Lucinda Russells and Christian Williams, it's relatively straightforward. But
I mean, you nice say that, Pat. I mean, 40 other runners turn up against them, don't they? But fair play to Christian and the team. Kitty's got over the line again, didn't he? Second in it last year, no win my wings. She's off to pasture now, of course. But some performance, wasn't it? And the money was down again.
Great to see. Yeah, really enjoyed that performance. I watched the race with my missus, and I said for the whole of the circuit, I said, Kitty's will definitely win.
Same.
Definitely win from here because he stays forever, doesn't he?
You just know him, don't you?
He was brilliant, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he was just right on cue, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then come to second last, there he comes.
And he does seem to have improved, doesn't he? Racing Post Races back that up, and we're going to see him again, all being well this weekend.
Absolutely, yeah. And of course, didn't he jump so well last time? The knock on him in 2 previous wins was, he belted the odd couple. He can't keep getting away with it. But he was just in that rhythm and travelled like the most likely winner for a long way, I thought.
Yeah, it's been a tough year and a tough season for the Williams family and the team, but Christian showing he's absolutely, when it's target time, there's very few better men out there and the team at that. So well done to the Ogmore-on-Sea team down there. And again, we'll talk about his chances turning up. No penalty, of course. We've got Punchestown this week as well, as you gave nod to. We started off, didn't we, with Facile Vega. Got the job done.
Yeah, it's been a very frustrating week so far for me at Punchestown because all the favourites that I've backed have got beat, and all the favourites that I've taken on I've finished second to, and that was one. I really thought that Iwate Tom had a really good chance of beating Facile Vega, but God, they can't jump, can they? Facile Vega made an absolutely atrocious mistake, and Iwate Tom walked through, I think, the 4th or 5th from home, and did remarkably well to still finish second. But I do think that we are looking at very, very good Supreme Novices hurdle by the looks of it, aren't we? I know the first 3 in the market were all in the Supreme. But of course, we've had the one that finished fourth came out and won in the pocket.
Yes.
That came out and won, and was it the sixth one or the seventh Fenacross? One at Aintree. So I think in Marine Nationale, although we have got an outstanding champion hurdler, of course, right now, but he's going chasing.
Yeah.
Once he goes chasing, what about Marine Nationale for the champion hurdle?
Yeah, like it. And like you say, Supreme looks strong. Looks like Fasal's going to respect his fences more next season. That's the line for Close Sutton. And Ergamine, of course. Now, not without a scare, because probably one of the highlights of the jump season was seeing Chacun Pour Soi come back, wasn't it? That was fun. He looked like he'd gone at the game, and retirement put on hold for a little bit. But you pushed out an Ergamine for that performance.
I think we're kind of expecting the younger brigade to come through this time around, and Ergamine, he's very good, but I wouldn't be putting him in the best ever section.
Well, he will be 10. Won't he?
Yes, which is never the best, is it? And we've got El Fab still to come at the time of filming. And we had a dream to share. What a pleasure that's been to watch. John Gleeson getting on for the family man. JP McManus, and yet again, Irish domination for JP and here domestically as well.
Pretty much every horse we've mentioned thus far has been a Willie Mullins horse, really. So it's nice to mention another trainer. 5 runs, 5 wins, all in bumpers. Be interesting to see how they go with him and who'll end up riding him, whether JP puts Mark Walsh aboard. But it was just excellent racing, wasn't it, at Punchestown? And it's good how these horses have retained their Cheltenham form to either Aintree or Punchestown. So it's been good to see them turn up and deliver.
And of course, talking about easing horses for next year's festival, it's not a current theme in the current climate, is it? But Galopin de Champs beat him, guys.
Yeah, I didn't actually see that one because I was at the football last night, of course, big games. But
you've given up on punting at Punchestown.
I actually had to do a double take when I scrolled down and looked at the result and saw Fast or Slow had beaten Galopin de Champs. I was like, someone must have made a mistake here, surely.
Well, let me talk you through how it happened. I mean, they went pretty much hammer and tongs, didn't they? In Brave Man's game, the only fence he's ever not got right in his life was the last there. He wasn't that bad over it, just lost a bit of momentum. But whether he truly sees out that trip, Brave Man's, I'm not unsure. Yeah. By the way, great to see him go over and, what a season he's had. And Galopin, you thought he was going to fall out the back of the telly pack, but if anything, he looked like he sort of had a bit of a think about it and ran on again. Was he outpaced? I mean, this is a horse they were talking about for the champion chase.
Yeah, I remember in the Gold Cup, it was hard work for him, wasn't it? Certainly on the first circuit. Maybe he's just one of those horses. Brave Man's game jumped well. I mean, if you want your King George winner on Boxing Day for the next couple of years, as long as he stays, healthy, you could only say Brave Man's game, really, couldn't you? But Galopin, probably more Galopin than speed, I would think.
And it was good to see Fast or Slow. Whether you call it just Punchestown end of season form, I don't know. But Martin Brasler had those, near misses. Got one at Aintree, but that was deserved.
Shall I tell you what was actually quite refreshing? Was, as I say, I've not seen it yet, but I was at the football and I was standing in the queue to get in the football, and about 2 or 3 guys behind me were going, I can't believe Galopin got beat. Can't believe Galopin got beat. So it did sort of get that story did get outside of the racing bubble in a way. There were just general people in the football queue talking about Galopin.
Well, your county of Essex loves their racing, as do we. Let's hope you enjoyed that wrap up then. But we must move on. Punchestown's still going. Wish you all the best with your bets there. Get your naps in for this weekend. We'll be giving them later on the show. But coming up first, we'll be going down to Gloucester. Ben Pauling rejoins us on the show. Congratulations, of course, to Paul Nicholls, another championship. Brian Hughes, another jockey championship. But the current conditional, Luca Morgan, is under Ben's tutelage. We'll be getting the word on that and all Ben's runners, including his, in the Bet365, and a cheeky classic runner for next weekend as well. Then the 6 race previews, and as mentioned, your weekend naps. Right then, shall we beam into Gloucester? Because the last time trainer Ben Pauling was on What a Shout. It was in the Ice Age, of course, a couple of months ago. All the Saturday racing was off that period, but you still tuned into that show, viewers, because it's a popular stable. They usually run to form. When the money's down, we know what happens, and there's a small matter of a classic runner coming up in just a week's time. Good morning, Ben.
Morning, Dave. Morning, team. How are you all?
Absolutely buzzing for this weekend. Of course, it's a celebration, isn't it? It's the final weekend at Sandown. You've got runners all over the place. 80 winners up for the season. And I just checked, of course, they'll be giving out the honours this weekend. You also house the new champion conditional.
Yeah, no, it's been a brilliant season. First full season in our new yard here, and it's great. It's got off to the perfect start, really a start we could only really hope for. And Luca is going to be crowned champion conditional on Saturday, which is really the icing on the cake for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. He must be buzzing for it as well. You got loads of runners then, Ben, of course. We'll get into them. Of course, you're sort of switching code, aren't you? Next week, of course, it sees the Classic weekend back at Newmarket. And we'll be looking out for you, Ben, on Sunday on terrestrial television, because Polly Pot, a filly, of course, who took the Mayhill last year when Harry Dunlop was still training, 4th in the Fillies Mile when she was getting going basically when the race was over. How she wintered for you, who's riding, and I bet you're excited.
Yeah, no, we're really excited. I mean, it's quite a baptism of fire, to be honest. We've only just started training a few, and we've got a filly in the Guineas, which is all very exciting, but we're not taking it for granted. Andrew and Jay Megson are great supporters of mine and brilliant people, and they've sent me the filly, and Harry's done a fabulous job previously to get to this point, so hopefully I don't completely scupper the whole lot.
Yeah, the Megsons, of course, who own Polly Pot, that's who Ben is referring to, and they're stud, and of course we know them as having top jumpers with you, Global Citizen et al, Ben. Is this going to be a thing for you going forward?
Never say never. I quite enjoy training. We've always got to keep the yard busy throughout the year. And I'm not one that's going to want 50 or 60 summer jumpers. So if we've got a few flat horses at the same time, it should be great fun and something we're looking forward to getting going with.
And Oisin Murphy taking the ride?
Yeah, Sheen's sat on her a couple of times, probably a month back, just less than a month maybe. At Kempton, we went and gave her a piece of work at Kempton. He was very pleased with her there. Felt that she could probably just do with getting on some grass and stretching her legs. So we took her to Newbury last Sunday and did a lovely piece of work. Took a little blow at the furlong pole, which is about bang on from where we wanted her. And she's just a classy little filly in the fact that she's a joy to train. She's very straightforward. She enjoys her job. And, let's be honest, I haven't the experience to know where she's actually going to feature within the race. But as long as Sheen's happy, which he is, then all systems go.
All those days at your old boss's, Nicky Henderson, of course, when those flying machines used to go at the gallop, I'm sure stood you in good stead for that. Let's bring in Pat Cooney from our sponsors, Bet365. Whereabouts does Polly Pot sit in the market?
Polly Pot is a 50-1 chance, but I think having the booking of Oisin Murphy will make sure that 50-1 gradually disappears.
Yeah.
So, and of course, you've got the anti-post favourite at the moment, Tahira, a Group 1 winning filly for Dermot Weld. She's not been committed to the Newmarket Guineas, and Dermot Weld, he's just as happy winning in a Newmarket 1 or a Curragh 1000 Guineas. So there's that, uncertainty. So the market's headed by Meditate of Aidan O'Brien's. But I was keen to ask Ben about the two trials we've had so far, Ben, the Nell Gwyn and the Fred Darling. Have you been paying much attention to them, looking at those races and thinking, yeah, I think we could match that performance?
Yeah, no, I have watched both races. I thought, Richard Hannon's horse was really quite impressive. And, you do look at them and think, should we have rolled the dice and should we have run her in a trial to make sure she's A1? But there was an element, and without being ridiculous, of why burst the bubble before we get there. She is a lovely little filly, and I do think she possibly, I don't know if Sheen's on the same page as me. We always thought she'd probably be more of an Oaks filly if she was at that level. I mean, she's finished 4th in the Fillies Mile, and that really didn't go to plan. So, and she's beaten a fair few before, and I do think she's improved. She's strengthened up. She's wintered, at Georgie Nichols's, and did really well. She's not a big filly, but she's a strong filly now, and she's got plenty of power, and she seems to have, her work seems very good, whereas previously last year she was famously not the best workhorse and sort of saved it for the course. So hopefully she's improved, and we can go there with our heads held high and give it our best shot, because we're looking forward to it, and it's very exciting for us all. The Megsons and Harry and Christina are still very much involved, so we're really looking forward to it. And if we can get her there in the form she is in today, a week on Sunday, I'll be delighted.
Oh, it's exciting then, Ben, isn't it? And like I say, fingers crossed for you there. It's a 50-1 poke, a little bit of pressure off, but as Pat says, Oshin on, that's going to go, viewers, isn't it? And sounds like she's been given loads of love over the winter, and she's starting to enjoy that as well. Talking of the Megsons, shall we get our weekend hat on, Ben? Because the 105 at Sandown, you've got a horse who showed his true colours somewhat belatedly, according to punters out there, because they gave him a chance at his rules debut, if you remember. It's Joe Dad Dancer, hacked up at Sandown at Southwell, last time.
Yeah, he's a supremely talented horse that just arrived here from Ireland, had a few wind issues at Wetherby, and we corrected those, but it just took him a little while for him to really relax and run a true race, really. I'd like to think he's on a very lenient mark for a horse of his ability, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he gets on Saturday.
Okay, what's the sort of weather looking like there? I mean, it's heavy on the flat course, isn't it, on Friday? But there's even talk about them watering the chase course. Would you believe it?
Yeah, no, it's good to soften places at the moment. They've got a fair bit of rain around. I mean, I'd love it to go good soft. I don't know if it'll get there, but regardless, it is what it is. We'll get there on the day, have a walk around the track, and see if it suits them. I mean, Joe will be fine. So it won't bother him too much, but it probably be more more of a bother to our horse in the Bet365 if it wasn't softer.
Well, it's a seamless link then, because it's Mucho Mas, of course, who Ben's referencing. Pat is being backed as well. The horse who's coming into it in the form of his life has got the soft ground 3 mile form there last time out.
Yeah, he ticks an awful lot of boxes, really. He's a 7-year-old, and 7-year-olds have an okay record in the race. He's right there near the bottom of the handicap. I suppose with Froden now being the top weight with carrying 11-12, they've all gone up 6, so that would have put Mucho's Mass on 9-9, so he's still out the handicap a bit, but he has got that progressive profile. He would have to be considered a player in what is an open race.
He's only had 12 starts, this chap, Ben, but you'd like to see the heavens open. I mean, there is rain around.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have to have heavy ground, and we're going further than we've ever been before, so there's an argument to say he probably might be okay on it. He is a very progressive horse. We finished second twice beginning of season over fences when we were over 2.5 miles, and then he's won his 2 races over 3 miles. But the time he got beat, and I couldn't believe he got beat, the second run of the season, we were beaten by Bill Baxter, that's gone on to win the Topham Chase. So, the form is there. He's a very upwardly mobile horse. He looks very well in himself. We've sort of half laid him out for this race a little bit, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on. But it wouldn't want to be good ground. It would have to be the good soft. For me.
All right, 18 runners then due to go to post, and highly progressive. And we've just lifted the lid on Mucho Mas. Let's move on then, Ben, because in the Josh Gifford Memorial Race, the 365 race there, you've got Harper's Brook running again for the Megsons. And in contrast to your 2 previous horses we were talking about, he started the season on a high, somewhat lost his way.
Yeah, he did. He has really. He's a funny horse. He's got enormous amount of ability, and he's an electric jumper. And I just wasn't sure he was quite putting it in, so I put him in the Ultimate and chucked some cheap pieces on him. And my God, he was electric. He jumped like you wouldn't believe. I said to Tom Cannon not to hit the front if he had an opportunity until after the last, and I think he was in front after the second. And he was really cool to watch until coming down the hill when he emptied out like he was going to, because he just done too much the whole way. But his jumping was exceptional. We were going to run him in the Topham, but he just wasn't quite right there 10 days ago. So I just said we'd wait for this. He's undoubtedly a horse with a big engine and a lot of ability, and he slightly lost his way last season as a novice hurdler, and then came back to win his second novice hurdle by about 17 lengths down at Fosslas, almost the same time of the year. And I have a sneaky suspicion he might just be coming back to himself, and we've taken the cheap pieces off him. I think they had too much of an effect, and he'll jump round Sandown for fun. So we'll see how he goes.
Well, jumping around Sandown for fun is what you need. Interesting, detecting some confidence there, and perhaps not the most obvious one of Ben's string then at Sandown, completing your runners in the 4:35. Fine casting, Ben, and again he's done very little wrong this season. It's a bit of a cliche, but he's always one that the punters seem to latch on to, and he gives his best.
Yeah, he ran really well in the Imperial Cup. On this sort of ground, he definitely needs 2.5 miles. Between me and Woodsy, we got the whole thing a complete mess the other day down at Fosslas. We made the running on him. We should never have done that over 2.5 miles, and he was sitting duck. So take a tow, have a bit of fun. He's a class horse. He's going to be a brilliant chaser next year. We're just sort of rolling the dice one more time with him. And then we missed Quinta de Mayo. I actually think he'll also run very well in the Novice Handicap Chase. The application of cheap pieces for him last time out didn't just half work. He travelled with all the zest of the old horse, and if he does that, he's going to be very competitive. So I think he got quite a decent hand in that Novice Chase.
It was all going swimmingly for me until Ben pointed out I've missed out what would probably be his most fancied runner in the Josh Given Memorial. That was a gamble landed, wasn't it, at Fontwell? You got talking of Polypot, you got a couple of runners on the flat as well. Sulakana up at Doncaster on Saturday night. And Active Duty, is he going at Musselburgh in the 1 mile 4 on Sunday?
Yeah, he will. We've run them both once already on the flat. Sulashana didn't really get much luck in running. Probably didn't quite see out the extended 2. So we dropped her slightly back in trip at Doncaster. Charlie Bishop rides. He's a good fella who's we're trying to use a bit when we can. So we're looking forward to seeing her at Donny. But yeah, we're going to send Active Duty on the long trip north on his own to Musselburgh. It's a 30k pot in the Sunday series. It's very much worth going for. And I thought I was quite pleased with his run the other day. At Wolverhampton, there was I can't remember who trained. I think it was a Balding horse or something like that. I think it was that won the race. But there was a Godolphin horse in behind us that was very well backed as well, and we managed to split the pair. We were no match for the winner, but I think he ran to a decent level, and back in the handicap, I hope he can go well. All
right, interesting stuff then, Ben. Before we let you go, we're going to squeeze it out of you. Have you got many to run in the new season, which of course starts very shortly?
Yeah, I mean, we'll end up with, I don't actually know, I'm about to do the list there today on what I actually think we'll keep him for maybe 3 weeks. And then the majority will be going out in the next sort of week, 10 days. And once they're out, we'll probably run a few once more. But we'll have a team of summer jumpers, maybe 10, 15, maybe max. But hopefully those that we keep in can hit the target like they did last year. We didn't actually have many in last year, but those that did hit the target, they gave us a nice little springboard to the proper season. And I think the whole team here are looking forward to just a little bit of downtime in comparison to what we have been. It's been, not just moving in the yard. You've got the building of the yard for the previous 2 years, and it's been a full-on few years for us. And it's a massive team effort. They've been incredible, and we couldn't have had it go any better. But I think we're all looking forward to maybe a few weeks just with the Cornetto in our hand or something like that.
Just enough runners to keep the owners and trainers badges coming and the champagne flowing in the bar there, of course, at the race course. Listen, Ben, it's great to hear you talking like this. It really has been a good season. We've enjoyed watching from afar. We cannot let you go without Pat Cooney asking about his favourite horse, which is Bangers and Cash.
Yeah, Ben, the Bangers and Cash, a real favourite of mine, and he keeps on winning. It was a courageous win last time out. And another one, if I may, Shake 'em Up Harry, who travelled like a dream at Aintree over 3 miles 1 last time out. Was that a stamina issue, and what would he be a target for next season?
Well, so it's an interesting one, Pat, because I'm in your camp. I think Shake 'em Up Harry is nearly a graded horse in a handicap every single time he runs.
Likewise.
And it doesn't seem to matter whether I run him over 2 miles, 2.5 miles, or 3 miles, or possibly even 4 miles. He seems to just not quite have that finishing kick. And so we put a tongue tie in this season, which has undoubtedly made it better. And although we've had his win tested, and they don't seem to think there's an awful lot, we are going to just tinker with his win, because there must be something just catching him in that last furlong. because he jumps for fun. He's got unbelievable tactical speed throughout a race for a big horse, and I think he's an absolute legend of a horse for a legend of an owner. So I'm determined to make sure that he gets onto the straight and narrow. And Bangers and Cash has been one of those, brilliant horses that has just grown and gone from strength to strength all season. The only times he's been beaten was when he was half fit, trainers useless, up at Wetherby. And then he just wasn't right. He had a little bit of mucus in his scope after Utoxeter, and he just never really went a yard. And he's just so honest, and he always tries. And, where we end up with him, I'd love to think with Harry, maybe I don't know, what's the Hennessy called? The Ladbrokes, or is Coral?
Coral Gold Cup, believe it or not. Everyone struggles with that one.
Yeah, maybe something like that for him. You've got Paddy Power Gold Cups. You've got a few very nice horses that I'm going to target Paddy Power Gold Cup probably with Your Darling first them out, because he's very hard to beat first them out. But Bangers, most people would say Welsh National. I just cannot have the race. It's a right on slog, but maybe if it's the perfect option, he might go there. But there's lots of options, but staying chases will be the nature of the game, and I don't think he's done yet. I think he's a late maturing horse that's just going to improve again next season, so hopefully he can go on.
Honestly, Ben, that was brilliant. Anything but a slog listening to you talk about all your runners and the hopes for the future. Listen, good luck next week as well, Ben. Wish all you, the team, all the very best for 2023 going forward. Hopefully speak to you, if not after the Guineas and maybe Royal Ascot, definitely next autumn.
Top stuff. Thanks, guys. All the best.
Okay, big race preview time, and yes, a Friday fillet for you because it's a great televised card and it's flat action all the way. It used to be, of course, a mixed card this back, didn't it? But it's been a massive success. Now look, we've had a lot of rain in the area. We've got some small fields, but my word, have we got some quality. And we start off in the Gordon Richards.
Yeah, the Gordon Richards, we have the one-time Epsom Derby winner, Adea, who runs. Just the 4 runners, and none of them have run for quite a long time, 7 months and beyond. But if you're an Adea fan, and there many are, you have to look at this race. And the key to the race is, Anmat is a real progressive horse from Owen Burrows' stable. I was a bit dubious about would he handle the ground, but he did have 1 run, 1 win on the ground last year, and he got up and duly won. Talented horse going forward. You can't really see Highland Avenue. You wonder if he's there just to make sure they go, a decent enough gallop. Regal Reality is an 8-year-old. We all like him, but clearly plenty on. So it's just the match, and Anmat has to give £5 in weight away, which, to give £5 to a one-time Derby winner seems like mission impossible for me. The only thing I would say with Adea, we asked Charlie Appleby at Newmarket, give us an older horse to follow throughout the season. Adea straight away, but he's starting at the Arc and working backwards. So when you think the Arc is in October, do you really want to be punting him at 4 to 7 in April? On heavy ground, that's the concern. He's a big horse. Maybe Anmat can give him £5. I don't think it's likely. I think this is just one race. If Adea wins this, and he won first time out last year, then we just say, yep, this is the older horse to follow. But as I say, if you're working back from October to a race in April, then you want to be a little bit careful if you're going to back him at short odds.
Yeah, I mean, Trip's quite interesting for this chap, isn't he? We didn't see a lot of him, of course, last year. He had that hold up, didn't he? But Charlie has been making all the right noises about this one horse you want to see this year and all that sort of thing. 5 now, of course, and I guess people will be down on this because of what happened to Hurricane Lane and the John Porter at Newbury last weekend, but he stank in the market, didn't he? Watch the market. £3 officially only higher than a Derby winner, than Anmat, who of course won the John Smith's Cup and just Group 2 success. Looked fantastic for Owen Burrows, win machine. Where do you see this prize going?
Yeah, it's a difficult race, isn't it? Because as Pat has already said, the weight concession puts a bit of a spanner in the works, really. If they were running off level weights, I would be quite confident that Anmat is the now horse. I think Owen Burrows generally has his horses very fit first time up. And as Pat has already said, I'm not entirely sure that Adea is going to be fully wound up here on heavy ground. But that weight does make you think, doesn't it?
One for the money buyers then.
Will his class get him through getting that sort of weight? No result would surprise me. Regal Reality likes Sandown.
It does.
And if he doesn't get himself buzzed up, which he can do, he could run well. And you never know, Highland Avenue might go off the front and sneak it.
He looks like he's there to be the hare for Adyard, doesn't he? He was a talented horse as a 3-year-old.
How many times have you seen that at Sandown, though, on soft ground?
Yes.
They buzz off in front and you think, oh, they'll catch him, and then they don't. And it's just got this. I mean, it's a great race with some really good horses in it.
So if you were having a play spot, would you put all 4 in?
Yeah, I think I would. I think I'd put all 4 in.
Finally, some advice I can get behind for the punters.
I think I'd hope that I got a result.
All right, okay, fair enough. Let's move on to the 3 o'clock then. It's a Bet365 mile. We've seen some really good winners of this over the recent years. And we've got a very classy horse for Jamie Spencer and David Simcock coming back up from Australia in light infantry, Pat Cooney.
Yeah, light infantry. Now, this is a Group 2. You could conceivably say light infantry is at least a Group 2, probably a Group 1. The Australian project is very interesting. He's the class horse of the race. On official ratings, he's £7 in hand. That's half a stone. That's a lot to have in hand. Of course, we've not seen him for 6 months, but he has won on heavy ground, so you've got no worries there. So if you're a light infantry fan, you've got the best horse in the race and a horse that's proven on extremely testing ground. But we've seen it. Like he's 13 to 8. It doesn't jump out the page as the bargain of the century at his price. Now, a lot of these haven't run this year. I don't see a lot wrong at a price for Migration. David Manouche won the Lincoln under top weight on very testing ground. He's got the recency form. He's obviously clearly fit. I get it, he's come up short before when he's been raised in class, but he's coming back of maybe a career best last time out. So he might be a value option to me, but I could quite easily see anything come through and win it. Check and Challenge, I've always thought was an underrated horse as well. But the key to the race is light infantry. How he'll go in the market remains to be seen. He's the class horse and proven on the ground. I quite like proven fitness and ability to handle the ground. So Migration at a much bigger price appeals to me.
Well, I think a lot of people will be with you. Benoit, did I say it, takes the ride again. He's got Sandown figures of 2-2-1, hasn't he? And Love the Slot. Now, the second to him in the Lincoln went over to France last week, got turned over, but you can't quite always put the collateral there. I'm sort of with Pat a little bit. The problem with light infantry is the class angle in the race. If you go back to his, in spiral form, this is all over, isn't it?
Yes.
But tactics will be key here. He was given a hell of a lot to do at Rosehill. When Jamie went down there for the ride, it just didn't work out. I think Jamie,
Well, Jamie Spencer gave him too much.
I didn't really want to go into the cliches here, all right. And it's look, I'm one of those that I'm a forgiving man a lot of the time, but this was one of those where they just didn't come back, and it was left behind a little bit. He's the class angle. Check and Challenge. Scott Formier from last year. He's very keen also. He'll need to settle down a little bit. But William Knight obviously running the Guineas thinks a lot of him. I'm with Migration. I think with Pat here.
Yeah, we've got an old favourite, haven't we? Muta Sabek. How many times have we spoken about
Sackable offence horse again for you out there, yeah.
Just to shout bingo.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, tick on that one.
That's a painful memory for me because when he won, it was the first time blinkers, wasn't it? He went from the front and you're like, I'm off, I'm out, and of course the chips were cashed.
But he did win, didn't he? Yeah, by Giles Stakes.
Yeah. And Charlie Hills has hit the ground running, isn't he?
Just when everyone had given up on him. But the one that I think might win this is Potapova. Now I like Stout first time out with these types of horses.
Going well,
Stable's really good form.
Newmarket.
Bingo!
Yeah, and first time out, he's got a great record with these horses at this time of year, from April, May, right up to the Brigadier Gerard meeting. They tend to come out first time out, fit and firing. This one, obviously, over the course and distance, I think it was last season, one of his best performances, beat Grand Dame. I reckon that getting the weight, Potapova could be the answer.
Yeah, it's just, I can see it. And if you're reading your papers on a Friday morning, you will see the excellent Kevin Morley in his trends column has put her up for the shock as well. All right, let's finish up our Friday special for you at the 3:35. It's the Bet365 Classic Trial. Can we call it that? I mean, Arrest is quite an interesting horse, and he's got course form as well. Pat Cooney.
Yeah, of course, we had Adair finish second in this 2 years ago and went on to win the Epsom Derby. What I would say about these five in the race at the moment, they haven't been movers in the anti-post market for the Epsom Derby. So these might be one of these horses where they win and connections say, okay, we might run him here, we might go to France, we might go here, there and everywhere with them. The best back since the final decks came out has been Arrest of the Gosdens with Frankie aboard. You'd kind of get that. I suppose just about on balance, he's the best form in the race. I quite like, I mean, I respect all five here. Talking about putting all four in the place spot and in a 4-runner race, you could put all five in here and you'd be okay. I think Salt Bay might be interesting. He's not run for 6 months, but got a decent level of form. And Rafe Beckett's stable in form. He had a couple of good winners at Newbury, didn't he, over the weekend? So I think Salt Boy may represent a degree of value, but certainly for money, Arrest has been the money horse of the race.
Yeah, Rafe absolutely flying. Of course, won it last year with Westover. And we all know what he wanted to do, second in the Derby, etc. Top horse for the Beckett's. Market going to be key here, isn't it? Because you've got the 2-year-old form, if you like. You've got the Gosden, unsurprisingly, flying on us when he turned up, albeit a 2-to-5 shot on soft ground here last year. Absolutely hosed up. He's bred to stay all day. But you've got Stout with Circle of Fire here. Beat a Charlie Appleby horse called Tabaretta, who's since gone on and showed his true colours. 13-to-2 shot, wouldn't put you off that. Learning all the way here, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. Pat said, like, Adyar won the race, second in the race.
Yes,
Alan Kerr won the race, and he's obviously a Group 1 winner since that race that Adyar was second. Last year, Westover won the race, and he obviously finished second in the Derby and won an Irish Derby. So recently, this race has really gone through an upturn, a resurgence.
Renaissance is the word you were looking for, man.
If you go back 20 years, Fantastic Light and good horses like Saki.
Happens like that, though, doesn't it? The Zetland Stakes is one that goes out of fashion, and then Gosden goes and puts a
Well, talking of the Zetland Stakes, you've got the Zetland Stakes winner in here, Flying Honours.
Yeah.
Now, Charlie Appleby ran the Zetland Stakes winner from the previous season in last year's race, Gold Spur, and that finished third behind Westover. I just wonder if this one might suffer a similar sort of fate. It obviously isn't his top 3-year-old, is it, Flying Honours? Arrest, I'm a little bit worried about the Gosdens, just in terms of I think they're still coming on a little bit for a run. When I was at Newmarket last week, a couple of them were well fancied. They ran well, but they just look like they might sharpen up.
2 from the last 29. So again, watch the market with this. If you're at Sandown, go down, have a look. Even if you're an untrained eye, look for those ribs in the paddock. Yeah, and again, when he was really well fancied, he got touched off by one, didn't he? So I'll be looking to take him on. Flying Honours is also just like going forward. But Circle of Fire, if there's any money around about for His Majesty the King's horse, he could just be the fly in the eye.
I'm with you. I think Circle of Fire could be the one for Stouty. Just been looking at the Gallops reports. He was working with Passenger, who won a maiden last week at Newmarket, and Richard Kingscote was riding him in the work.
Yeah.
So the fact that Richard Kingscote was on board suggests that he was probably thought better than Passenger.
They're worth their weight in gold, David Milne's Gallop reports,
very good,
aren't they? It's one of our long-standing columns, and honestly, if you don't read them, get on board. So Adyar to just about win, get his season off to a flyer. Yeah. Although Anne Martyr's sexy rival against him, we're taking on light infantry. Yeah. Probably at our peril, and we're going to take on this Arrest as well.
Definitely.
All right. There are your 3 previews on a fabulous Friday. Who's ready for 3 big race previews on Saturday then? Celebration of the jump season, and we're going to do the first 3 races for you, because that opening race, Pat Cooney, the Novice Handicap at 105 over 2 miles, looks like a really good betting heat.
Yeah, every time I look at this race year on year, I think, wow, what a wide open handicap this is. But market leaders have a pretty strong record in the race, and they're all the top stables involved. As for the steering people either way this time around, well, Paul Nicholls is the top 3 in the handicap, but Kill Alone has definitely been the best backed of those 3. Harry Cobden aboard. Of course, the other 2 come in with strong form, Bo Balker and Holetown Hero. The market's at the moment, I suppose, under control's favourite to be favourite, and he was back in business last time out. And it's rare, isn't it? Nicky Henderson sends one back out after just the 9-day gap between races, so that's not been lost on the punters. It's a wide open race right at the bottom, Kansas to Burley for Gary Moore. He always does well at Sandown, very much in the equation. The list is endless, really. My eye is drawn to a horse that hasn't run for 86 days called Celtic Art, trained by Jeremy Scott, Rex Dingle aboard. You know them from the Darshall Drasher combo.
Sorry, who?
Drashall Dancer.
I had to put him up on that one.
But this horse hasn't run for 86 days, which is either one of 2 things. Either they've had problems or they've protected their handicap mark and opted to wait here for it. So with £100,000 added for the race, I'm taking the view that he's been mapped out for the race. And he's just one of these good trainers, I think, Jeremy Scott, a target trainer. So in a race where you can rattle off half a dozen, as I just have, I quite like the profile of Celtic Art here.
Fools seldom differ. Bingo time again.
Wow.
Because it's Celtic Art for me out there. I was with him when he won at Wincanton last time under a penalty. It was one of those typical novice races at Wincanton where the first 2 are always up there, but he turned over a horse called Spartan Army. He's since gone in again.
Correct.
The 3rd looks like a decent horse for the Tizzards. The time before when he won there, he beat a horse called Poncho at Gary Moore's. That's gone and won again since. They were tempted by Aintree, apparently. They weren't sure about the ground there for him, so he's got everything in his favour in here. If you remember him on the flat, when he was trained by a friend of the show, Ollie and Paul Cole out there. Another bingo for you out there, people, if you're scratching off your numbers. We're getting them all out today. He was a very classy horse at his best, race post ratings in the hundreds and stuff like that. Love the fresh angle.
Yeah, can see it.
But you're probably thinking Paul Nicholls has won, and again, I know you've done your homework. Paul Nicholls has won 3 years ago, second 2 years ago, won it last year. He's got 3 here. Which one are you going for?
Yeah, you've been reading my notes, haven't you?
Oh yeah, there are so many of them.
No, I've learned my lesson this year.
I mean, people would be out there screaming at the telly right now.
You come into these races and you think that's competitive, and then Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden win it. Oh yeah, that was pretty obvious, wasn't it? They won the Imperial Cup here, didn't they, a few weeks ago? Then they picked up that Stay Away Fay with the novice hurdle. I just think that they've got a decent team, and they've obviously, Harry seems to have chosen Killalone. Is that what it's called?
You've nailed it.
Killalone, yeah.
You've nailed it.
Had 3 runs. I don't really know much about what he's achieved. He went off short price for all 3 of them. 2 at Taunton, 1 at Ludlow. A small sort of building up. It reminds me of Martin Pipe used to do this, didn't he, years ago? He'd turn up with horses that had won a couple in the middle of nowhere, and then it'd win a big
used to be
race
such
like
an
this.
easy game, didn't it?
It did used to be. But no, I think Killalone, and one of the stories of the whole season, I think, anyway, has been just how good has Harry Cobden been this year. I mean, he has been absolutely outstanding. Really, really, really good. And I think that he'll get another big one here.
He's got the top 3 in the handicap. That's the opener then. Who are you going with? Get them in below you with G-Rod. Keep it simple, and on we go, me and Pat, like Celtic Art, to get the money there. All right, let's go on then. What is it? It's 140, of course, coming up. And now we go to Grade 1 action. A bit of a fly here in the ointment, Pat Cooney.
Yeah, and as sponsors of the race, it was a real pleasant surprise to see John Bon in the 5-day decks for this race. And you're thinking, yeah, will he, won't he? Well, the ground should be all right, the goodish ground. And lo and behold, here he is amongst the final decks, and it's an elite field, isn't it? Funambule Savola is the outsider of the party, and he's a talented horse in his own right. So tough to pick between the top 2. Captain Guineas, we know he's very solid. Editor Gigi, we know he's solid. I suppose he'll be easy to find, won't he? He'll be bowling along, doing his, front-running impression. Just a quality race, isn't it? Greenatine, he's got the form. He clearly likes it round here. He likes this race. Solid. But I just think John Bon, he's 2 years younger. He's going to be better soon enough. I think probably come Tingle Creek time, he'd be the one for that race. I just like John Bon. The only caveat I would put in with John Bon, I was at Aintree on Grand National Day, and he ran in the first race, and he was very much on his toes. You're just thinking, is he going to boil over or whatever? It was an easy win. There was only 4 runners, and he was 6-1 on. But he was just jig-jogging around the parade ring, and that was a bit of a concern. And he may do that. That might be his trait anyway. I think he's quite a buzzy horse as it is. I just think he's the best horse in the race. I think he's better than Greenatine right now even. I respect Greenatine. He's the more solid option. But you can kind of see the race, can't you? Editor bowling along in the lead. They all jump great. So I just fancy John Bon here. But just keep an eye on him in the parade ring. Make sure he doesn't overdo it.
Whatever you're doing at 140 on Saturday, and you're probably watching the race with Pat. Are you going, by the way?
I am considering.
Right, okay, so it might be G-Rod as well. Paul Keeley will be there, along with some emission controller going as well. And this is going to be the race of the card, I think.
Yes,
because
completely agree.
the handicapper would say that £9 separates them officially, Greenatine and John Bon. We've got the second in the champion chase running Captain Guineas, who, of course, has run behind Greenatine at the course before. That was in December on horrible ground. He could get closer. The race should be run at a decent gallop, as you say, thanks to Editor. And Funambule is in there as well, coming off the back of a fall. But on his day, he's very talented. Where do we go with this? Because Nicky could have just put him out to pasture,
of course, yeah.
John Bon.
Trappy, isn't it? People say this is a trappy race. Don't really know what it means a lot of the
What
time,
would we be looking at if John Bon didn't run? What price would we be looking at on Greenatine? So he's done us all a favour, hasn't he? By turning up, because it's going to be a real cracker now. But evens to beat Captain Guineas.
Well, Captain Guineas ran very, very well at Cheltenham.
But he holds him, doesn't he? And this is, He's becoming Altior if he wins this race. He won this 3 races in succession. You'll remember he's won the last 2 Grenadine. This is his home patch, isn't it?
Yeah, and Nichols will have had this race in mind. How many times this season we just said it? How many times this season you've gone right? That's Nichols' milk bottle for that race, isn't it? As you've seen.
The milk bottles, put a fiver in a milk bottle up until Celebration Chase Day with Grenadine. You could have done that this season. I like it, Jim.
Yeah, no, he will definitely have had this race in mind. And time again this season, I've sat there and gone, right, I fancy this horse for the King George, for example, hoisting and then Nichols has just laid out Brave Man's Game, and bang, on the day, Brave Man's Game is there. Very difficult race. Great to see John Bond turning up. I don't know how good he is yet. I mean, I thought he was really good at the start of the season, and then I wasn't sure, and then I'm still not sure.
The connections after Aintree said he screamed like an attacking 2-miler. So to get a lead, theoretically, our editor is going to be what he wants. I think, can we all agree that the Champion Chase form should be reversed at Sandown between Captain Guineas and Grenadine? Because Grenadine got a funny ride that day. It was a very messy race, wasn't it? He was lit up by chasing an odd pace.
It was very soft ground, wasn't it?
Grenadine is a much better operator at Sandown than anywhere else.
So come on, they want to know what's going to win. I think John Bon as well. We're agreeing again. Bingo time. Go on.
I think that Green Tina will probably win, but I'm not sure I want to back him at the price. I could see Captain Guinness running really well again.
Who goes off Fav? Favourite to be favourite, as Pat likes to say. Bingo.
I think John Bon. I think he's got that aura about him, and his CV is outstanding as well. And he usually does go off favourite for his races as well. So.
All right, okay, 140. It's going to be a cracker, but let's go to the biggie. I have to remind myself, it's 3.5. An extended 3.5 basis, isn't it? The Bet365 Sandown at Gold Cup. We cannot wait for this. And we know who's going to be favourite here. He's coming back out. They're rolling the dice. Team Williams. No penalty for Kitty's Light.
Yeah, under the conditions of the race, you don't get a penalty for winning the Scottish National. So Kitty's Light, he's got £6 in hand, and he looked like he had more than £6 in hand to me last week. So, of course, your reservation is... Of course, he was the moral winner of this race 2 years ago as well. I can't still figure in my head he's still only a 7-year-old. I seem to have been talking about him for about 10 years. Your only reservation is, well, it was only a week ago that we asked him to run 4 miles and now 3 3/4 miles-ish this time around. But he's a horse at the top of his game. He's going to be in so many bets. He's going to be a very popular order. But there are others in the race, aren't there? I mean, you look at Frodon. Unfortunately, now he's going to carry top weight, but since he's had that wind operation, he does seem to be staying very well in his races, and he does like the goodish ground. From a handicapping point of view, he won the Badger Beer at the start of the year off 168, and he won that comfortably by a couple of lengths. And he's on a just £2 higher mark this time around. I could see Bryony bowling him along in front, trying to control the race. I think he's a player. But I keep coming back to... I mean, you can throw in Revels Hill. I seem to always mention Revels Hill whenever he runs. The horse, if you like your handicap form, T Clipper, he ran at Cheltenham. The winner of the race was a horse called Correct Rambler. Went on and won the Grand National. Runner-up that day was Fast or Slow. Well, he beat Brave Man's Game and Gallopin' the Champ last time out. Doesn't mean every horse from that race is going to come out and win next time out, but he was fixed and he ran okay for a long... I was watching it last night. He ran okay for a long, long way. So T-Clipper, I think, is one of these horses that you could see the tipping lines latching onto just because of that Correct Rambler, Fast or Slow form. So I'm going to go with T-Clipper just on that basis, but good luck to Christian and the team with Kitty's Light, though. And thank you to them for running the horse.
Yeah, it's going to be... Listen, it's going to... Could it be another gamble? Yeah, they're all turning up the team there, as I think, to cheer him on as well. Got Revels Hill in here, got Ansam, who's had a great season, comes into it off a big win. Frodon, considering he's giving upwards of £11. He's a course winner, though, because he won the Oaksey Chase, do you remember, a couple of years ago? Yeah. What a classy race this is. I've got one in it, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to see Kitty's Light do the double. He should obviously have won this race 2 years ago. Very unlucky, and he won the NIDA and a Scottish National. What a treble that would be if Christian Williams could pull that off. However, I like the Goffer. He finished 4th behind Fast or Slow and Correct Rambler, and slightly ahead of T-Clipper. He finished pulled up last time out in the Irish Grand National. That is a funny race, that Irish Grand National, every year. I remember backing Kenboy in it about 4 or 5 years ago, and he was running off a silly mark, and I think he got brought down at the first or something. I still hold a grudge for that because I had a big price, and he would surely have gone very close. Nevertheless, it is a weird race, and I'm willing to put a line through that run. He's 6 years old, the Goffer. He's still a novice. Sean Bowen's been booked by Gordon Elliott. I can't believe he's a double-figure price. Be surprised if he is on the day.
Yeah, it's a profitable combination in the making, that, isn't it, Gordon Elliott and Sean Bowen? I'm hoping that Kitty's lights up again, of course I am, but there is one in here, and I was very annoyed to see that Keels had put it up in this Weekender column, and it's certainly red for Lydia Richards. Caelan Quinn taking off
This thing that's won about 6 in a row.
It ran over hurdles last time, but it was all just to keep it, in the game. Forget that, he's not a hurdler. He won his last 3, including here at Sandown over 2 mile 4. He beat a horse called Gemerond. Who is one of my favourites, and he should have won at Cheltenham last week, that chap. He'll love the ground. I think if he gets a waiting ride, Caelan Quinn wouldn't know so much about him.
This is certainly red.
It's usually Mark Goldstein that rides him, but they're taking off the 5. He's got a massive chance. He's still going forward if he's in that Wincanton form. We'll watch that back. He's honestly, this is an unfashionable horse that has got a humongous chance. He's the one that Kitty's got to worry about for me, I think. Well, gents, that's it. Saturday done. Wasn't that enjoyable? We indulged ourselves. Why don't you below with your tips for the big weekend? Who's ready for some weekend winners then? Let's get the naps out of the way. I'm going to have to go first because I honestly think Celtic Art is going to take out that 105 at Sandown on Saturday for ex-Dingle and Jeremy Scott. Love this animal. G-Rod.
I'm with the Goffer in the big one, the Betfree's 5 Gold Cup. 2:15 at Sandown.
All right, yeah, okay, 2:15. But after we go off air terrestrially, you'll be sticking around because there's a cracker coming up at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, yes. And it normally pays to back Paul Nicholls' horses any time of the year. 28% strike rate this year. Unbelievable, 28%. But he always does well at this meeting. Had 5 winners on the card last year. If he hasn't had a winner by 4 o'clock, I think he'll have the winner with Nappers Hill. 2 miles 5. He's not gone 2 miles 5 before. But he won over 2 miles 3 earlier in the year, and he wasn't stopping that day. Goodish ground, classy horse. I think he goes chasing next year, so good way to sign out. The nap is Nappers Hill.
The nap is Nappers Hill.
Just one fascinating stat that hit me the other day. Just to tell you how great Paul Nicholls is, and Pat's just mentioned it, is that he has actually trained more winners this season than Dan Skelton has, having had more than 200 runners fewer than him.
There you go.
How good is that?
Yeah, that is surprising, isn't it? I mean, he's also going to bust his prize money, isn't he, again?
Yeah, he's on pace to do that.
The first time since 2009 I read the other day. It's just, yeah, it is absolutely remarkable. And he had a great Cheltenham, didn't he, which was good to see as well. Well, look, we're in awe. It's another Trainers' Championship. Let's hope we're in awe when the treble comes up. Whisper it. Nappers Hill, the nap for Pat. Well, very sadly, that's all we've got time for on this week's What a Shout. Let's hope you've enjoyed it. Let's hope you enjoyed that interview with Ben Pauling. He doesn't hide away, does he, Ben? Great talker of the game. And if you want to get involved with the action and really see what we're talking about in depth, why not have a play about with the Racing Post app? There you go then, it's free. Get involved. It's been an absolute pleasure having you back.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, so you might be going?
I might go, yes. Yeah, you know,
It's your local track, is it? Well, Chelmsford, obviously.
Chelmsford, obviously, that is not in doubt, but it's the easiest track for me to get to. And I love a day at Sandown, and this is always a great day, isn't it? The last day of the season, really good racing. And I really hope that I'm able to go, but I hope Mrs. R isn't watching.
Well, yes, Sabrina, of course.
Yeah, because I'll have to, you know, I might have to sort of pretend that I'm not going to go, if you know what I mean.
Formidable creature.
Might have to say I'm working or something like that, you know.
Yeah, she always has me on my toes, I've got to say this. And Pat has sorted out the squad tickets, haven't you, for the Racing Post? Was he on the shortlist?
Yeah, I mean, all the production team, I've given them all free. They've all got their own private dressing rooms, all as they want.
I doubt they'll come out of it. Prima donnas, honestly, the whole lot of them.
None of the staff are allowed to make eye contact with them. Whatever their demands were, I'm going to honour.
They'll be giving over the prizes now, Pat. Be careful what you wish for. Pat, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think this is something like 140 shows we've done together in succession there. I've really enjoyed every week with you, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's been great fun. And I'm just on Sandown on Saturday. Saturday. Get there early. There's the Parade of Champions, and it's just a fun day. And all the presentations. Paul Nicholls, 14-time champion trainer, so give him a round of applause.
I can see the production staff noting that one down. They'll be leading that as well, I imagine, as well. Look, get along to Sandown this weekend. The sun will hopefully be shining. They're all out there. It's celebration time. Thank you for watching What a Shout. Don't forget, of course, safe gambling. That's what it's all about. Loads of runners out there this weekend. Keep your targets simple. All that sport out there then. For myself, Dave Orton, enjoy it.